Hello, everyone. I'm back with another episode of the Mindful Constitution podcast. I'm here today with my friend Kat Williams, not the comedian Kat Williams. Um, and she is owner of Cherry on Top Yoga and Wellness. And we met at the North Shore Wellness Expo, where I met so many awesome health and wellness practitioners. And yeah, we hit it off. She's been to a yurt circle. We plan to do an event together in the future. And she has a really cool story about starting her own business, leaving the corporate world behind. And so, yeah, we're just going to dig in today. Hi,
Thank
Kat.
you. Hi. Thank
How's
you.
it
That
going?
was lovely. It's going. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. Chit chat a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today. So, okay, you're a yoga teacher. Your business kind of is more expansive than just yoga, though, because you do different kinds of events and you are also a Reiki master. Is that right? What are all your
Yes.
credentials? Fill us in.
Okay. Oh God, so many. Um, so yoga, yes, I am a certified yoga teacher. I've been teaching for 7 years. I do have my Reiki master. So that is that. As far as yoga, I do yoga, health and wellness. I teach a lot of different places. So I teach around the North Shore, which is amazing for me. I also teach adults with disabilities.
Mhm.
Um, and then I try to make yoga accessible for everybody. So whether it's bringing it to businesses, which I do, I have corporate clients. I'll bring yoga into home spaces too. So people want to do like a staycation or a party or something like that. They want to bring wellness into their house. I can do that. And then I do a lot of personal training too. So I'll do one-on-one yoga, or if you want to do two people together with yoga, I'll do that as well, out of my home office space, and Reiki out of my home office space. So it's kind of a lot, but it caters to a lot of different individuals. And I also teach teens too. So I just did a series with teens that are athletic. They're cheerleaders actually. So sports, that they're in sports and things like that. So that's really fun too.
Oh, I love that. All the different demographics you work with. I definitely am partial to working with people with disabilities. My brother suffered a traumatic brain injury um, in a car accident when my whole family was in it. But yeah, so what kind of led you to working with disabilities specifically?
So sorry about that. First of all, yeah, my heart goes out to you for that. It wasn't even something I was looking for. It landed in my lap, to be perfectly honest with you. And it's been such an amazing experience for me. I started teaching at this company. It's for a while. So for the past 2 years, they brought it in for their employees. And they just felt like yoga was something that they needed because, they're in the field, they have intense jobs. So that's how it started. And then the next year, as I got into this, they said, "Hey, we have a location. Would you like to teach our clients?" And that was a different experience for me. And I said, I would absolutely love to. This is something so new for me. And it brings me so much joy. I love it. I love the classes. We have so much fun. We do different things, but I've been doing that for the past year and a half with them. So yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
Very special.
very.
So yeah, I know we talked a lot when we've chatted about your path to entrepreneurship and kind of stepping away from your corporate job and what led you to do that. And
That's a long, that's a short question, but a big answer.
yeah,
So my entrepreneurship journey, I guess I would say it started long before I was even born. So my grandparents came here from Italy in the early 1900s. And when they came here, they landed in Manchester by the sea, and then they quickly moved to Beverly, when they moved to Beverly, um, they were just building their life, their family. They had 10 children, being my father, and they started a family market. So that was their thing, and it was amazing. So they had that, think about this, it was the early 1900s, in our family for 80 years, 80.
Wow.
Yeah, so a really long time. So my mom worked there, my father worked there, my aunts and uncles, I did too. So I was really quickly immersed at a young age into that type of environment, which was so fun for me and such an amazing experience. And then after, like during that, my uncle, my father's brother, also went into business with his father-in-law, and he opened a restaurant. It's called the Village Restaurant in Essex. You might have
Oh
heard of it.
yeah, I know that.
Yeah, amazing food. So
But
my
did they
family
change
just have,
I thought they changed the name recently or something,
they
or
did, and then they sold it, and then it's something different completely. So they had it in their family for a really long time. When my uncle passed, my cousins took it over,
Mhm.
and then I worked there for a short period, for a very, very short period of time. The restaurant industry was not for me, but
Yeah.
the food was amazing. So as that evolved into my family, you know, I was like I was immersed in like the entrepreneurship kind of experience at such a young age. And then as time passed, as I got older, my parents, I continued on with my education and things like that. My parents sold the business. So and it was Ricky's Market. So it was in our family for, like I said, 80 years. It eventually got sold. And then it became condos, and we sold the land. We had a lot of land. We sold that. So it was condos and a couple other businesses and things like that. And then from there, shifted. My life shifted. I continued on with school. I graduated, and then I got into the corporate world.
Mhm.
So, and that was HR for me. So I was heavily involved in HR and worked for a couple different companies. One was a global company that was in like 14 different countries. So I got to travel a ton, which was really cool. I worked for a healthcare consulting company and a data company. So with that, I learned a lot about like I was heavily involved in like benefits and compliance and all this fun kind of boring stuff too, but stuff that like an entrepreneur, it helps, as you're starting your own business too. So I was like in mergers and acquisitions and all kinds of all employee relations and things like that. I helped build an HR department. So that was really cool for me and great experience as I continued to evolve
Mhm.
in my path. And from there, I yeah, I continued with that. And then what really happened for me, what was kind of the pivotal change for me, was when my mom passed. And
Mhm.
my mom had passed away. And when she passed away, I, was grieving. It was really hard for me, obviously. And I kind of sought out yoga. So that's where the yoga piece comes into play. Like yoga came into my life when I was in high school and long before that, but I kind of like dipped in, dipped out. I didn't really take it seriously. I loved it, but I just wasn't ready for it. And so when my mom had passed, I needed something. I needed an outlet, and I also had some big injuries. And then I got Lyme. I got really, really sick with Lyme disease. So I wanted to follow that holistic path. And when I kind of bounced around to a lot of different studios to find my place. And it wasn't until I found a studio that was a little close to my home, and I found my spot. So I found my like place. I loved it. I took classes all the time. It helped with my injury. It helped with my grief. I thought I was going for my injury, but it ended up being like I really needed to like work out some stuff too.
Mhm.
And it was heavy. It's heavy stuff. And then from there, I I was still in the corporate world, and so I was traveling a lot internationally and domestic. So at that point, the studio was doing a teacher training workshop, and it was for 200 hours. And one of the teachers said, "Hey, you should try this. You should take it." And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be a teacher. Like, I just like, what are we talking about here? And it's so funny that I say that because, like, when I was little, I used to love to teach. I'd come home from school and I'd be like, I'd rip out the chalkboard and I'd be like, my stuffed animals all lined up and I'd be teaching, my dolls. But I never pursued that path. I pursued HR instead. And then the one of the teachers said, you should check this out. And I said, well, I'm traveling to Asia for work right now. I just started this new job. I left a job after 10 years, jumped into a new job. And then, I went to Asia. I thought about the teacher training. I came back and I said, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? I just started a new job. Why not throw on teacher training on top of it? Let's buckle up. And I did, and I will never regret that decision. I thought I was expanding my practice. Um, and I really was. Like, I thought that was where the journey was going to end. I'm just there to expand my practice. I'm not going to teach. And then when I finished and I graduated, I started teaching. And I loved it. Like, I legit fell in love with it. And I was like, this is amazing. And yeah, I kept doing it, but I was juggling. Like, I like to say balancing, but I was literally juggling. I was like working a really heavy corporate job, which was super intense, while I was trying to teach a bunch of classes. And, I have a family at home and things like that. So it was crazy. I was like busy all the time. And I like that, which is, that it was fine for me. But I needed to shift. And it was only when, like, last year, it was in 2024 of last year, I finally decided, like, hey, I need to shift. And I left my corporate job.
Hmm.
And then I went full in on, cherry on top yoga and wellness. I just felt like, my side hustle is now going to become my real hustle. Um, and that's kind of how the journey started to unfold. But it was, a long way to get there. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's so interesting listening to you talk and say, like, I never thought that I would like be teaching even when you went to the teacher training. And it is wild reflecting in hindsight sometimes about the way we're thinking when we're going through different things and then how it ultimately shaped our reality in ways we were so unaware of at the time. And it really does make you feel like, dang, there's some forces beyond our control at work here.
Yeah, 100%. 100, yeah, it takes me a minute to, like, maybe it's me being stubborn. I don't know. I don't know. It was like, I don't know, but it was, yeah, a
Do you
thousand percent
believe?
right.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like kind of like, was this gonna happen no matter what? It's interesting. Do you feel like you believe in destiny or
I
no?
do. I do. I do. 1,000% I do. Yeah, I do. Um, I just, like, when it goes back to, like, the teaching piece of it, it was like I always loved it. I just didn't pursue it. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. So, like, now when I look back and I, like, kind of look back to, my family and my grandparents, like, all of that whole history, and then how it just, like, it made its way eventually to, I landed where I needed to land at the right time. I just wasn't ready for it back then. And,
Mm.
you know, so it took a minute.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even all the entrepreneurship in your family, it's like that's so much pre-existing like programming and belief systems, like being able to see people in your immediate reality building a business, I think is really powerful because for me, I talk about this a lot on Instagram, but I remember taking my first business class and it was just intro to business or whatever. But I also remember looking over the business curriculum and options for classes, and one of them was intro to entrepreneurship. And I thought, wow, the idea of building your own business sounds really cool. But like, what would I do? And I don't think I could do that, but it was definitely piqued my interest. And then I just kind of went on my way and like got my degree, got a job, did the thing. But it's just funny that we have these little nudges along the way. And I didn't really have anyone that I saw, build a business in my immediate reality when I think about it. Like
Yeah.
my mom was kind of like a stay-at-home mom throughout me growing up, but she actually did help my dad build his practice like prior to me being born. But yeah, it's just wild to think back, like what contributed to the beliefs we have about whether we could be an entrepreneur or not. And then like little synchronicities that happen along the way. It's like, would I have been guided here no matter what?
Right, right. I feel so. I feel like my parents would have given me like a little nudge, like this is where you need to be. This is, which
Yeah.
is because I've always like when my parents sold the market, when our family sold the market, it was hard for us because it's something like it was with us forever for a really long time. So it was like that was our like home away from home, right? So it was always something, even after it was sold, that I'd always think back to and be like, wow, that space would be really cool to have right now. And it was like on a main, it was on a main street in Beverly. So it was like, this is prime, prime real estate, prime property, like amazing for so many different reasons. But I always looked at that space and thought like, I love that. I don't know what it looks like. You know what I mean? And because yoga didn't come like seriously to me until years later, So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Wild little ride of reflecting back, and a lot of things make sense in hindsight. Like,
Yeah,
oh, that's why
yeah,
I was doing that. Even
yeah.
hospitality, you said hospitality was not for me. It was not for me either. But I
No.
worked in it for so long, like paying my way through grad school and just growing up in a vacation destination. I worked in hospitality, so it was like some of my first jobs were in restaurants and stuff. And I never was thinking, oh, this is helping me build my future in any other way than financially. But now when I do yurt circles and I'm like, oh, some of that like event organization and hospitality is coming through after all.
It is. It is. It's so funny. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like the same thing with HR. Like, I feel like HR is just, for me, it's helped me in so many ways. And I naturally navigated to that because I like helping people, so that brings joy to me. So I think that has trickled over into yoga and into the health and wellness space and all of that, which is fun. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I bet it's so advantageous for you to have all that knowledge and then applying it to your own business. It makes complete sense. That'd be so helpful to know.
Yeah.
Yes. So tell me, okay, speaking of entrepreneurship, what do you feel like are some of the kind of like most challenging mindset struggles you've had to overcome starting your own business? Because I feel like there's a laundry list when you
There's
like
a,
start having the courage to do it, marketing, social
I
media,
mean,
imposter syndrome.
oh my God, all of it, all of the above, and then some. And it's like every day is a different day. I don't know if you feel that way, but I feel like every day is a different day. So it's just like because it's entrepreneurship is not new to me per se, but because it was in my family, but it's new for me for myself. So um, I call it head trash, and I've been calling it like my students will know. I'll say like that head trash, that stuff. I named it. It's stuff that swirls around in your head that just tells you you can't, you shouldn't, and that's there. That rears its head every now and again, and it looks different every day. Like yeah, like I don't know it from why you, but then I think like what makes you so special, like those things that and I'm like, but why not me? So it's social media, which I don't love all the time, so that's hard. Like I feel like I spend a lot of time doing that. Then I'm like, all right, that doesn't sound great, or I gotta change that, or whatever. And I'm like, are people reading this? Do people want this? Like all of the above to like I don't know. How what was that? Like, it's just, yeah, there's so many different things that swirl around in my head that you named.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, the whole kind of like what makes me special is so interesting. It's like, yeah, but why what doesn't make you special? It's
Well, yeah, that's what I think. Like, I was thinking that, and it's just like, but why not me? So I just feel like I had to get out of my comfort zone. And that's the biggest thing, is getting out of your comfort zone, because it's fear like that holds you back. But like, I had read something a long time ago, and it was like, you know, fear can have a seat at the table, but you get to have the voice, you know? So it was like, fear's there to kind of, you know, sit there and say, hey, you might not want to do this or whatever, whatever. And then you're the one that gets to say, like, hey, I've got this. I'm okay. You
Yeah,
know, so
really interesting because the other woman I did a podcast recording today with, we were talking about internal family systems and like parts work. And I'm not sure if you're really familiar with that, but it is this idea of kind of uh, acknowledging all parts of yourself and understanding where they come from and kind of that sort of integration process instead of letting it dictate your reality subconsciously. We like look at it and be like, yeah, it's okay to be fearful if we're creating something from our soul that like we're very personally inspired by and attached to. It's normal to be fearful and kind of just normalizing the challenging emotions that come up around entrepreneurship because it's like would you care if it wasn't meaningful to you or if it wasn't something that was truly like a piece of who you are. Think sometimes that's why creating a business feels really exposing, especially in health and wellness, because I mean, you're sharing a lot of things that you've personally overcome or dealt with, or you're dealing with clients and stuff. And it really does feel like you're bearing your soul, depending on what kind of business you start. But I feel like both of us are in the soul bearing entrepreneurship, and that's really daunting. And it's a little different too than starting a business of like marketing a good or something where it's like you're selling yourself as the product and it
yeah,
does perpetuate those feelings of like, who do I think I am? Like telling
right,
people what to do or whatever.
right.
And
Yeah,
so it it is. It's like such a inner work journey, entrepreneurship.
it is an inner work journey. I agree. And it's a lifelong journey. Like, I feel like I'm still I'll always be a student, right? At the end of the day, when it comes to teaching yoga, I'm still always going to be a student too. I will be a teacher, but I'm always going to still continue my practice because I need it. So I'm still learning. Like, I feel like I'm always learning, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I totally am right there with you. I feel like constantly learning but enjoying the process is a balance. I'm always trying to strike a delicate balance and um yeah, just kind of reminding myself. I think for me, one thing I talked about recently too with social media is that inner dialogue you were talking about earlier of like, oh, is anyone gonna care? Do I even like this? Like whatever. And then just this is just like one depiction of who I am in this moment of time. It's not like my life's work in this one Instagram post. And people who follow you kind of understand the general like spirit of your message. And I always try to remember like there is probably going to be a million things I'm going to look back on and be like, I don't really agree with that anymore. But like we're always outgrowing even ourselves. So I just try to, that always helps me with that mindset too, because I have that come up a lot as well.
You do.
Yeah, all the time. Like, is this even going to resonate with anyone? Or you
Right? Right?
put a lot of energy into something and like two people like it. And then
Right.
I've been reading, I follow a lot of like creatives accounts, like artists, and because I feel like we are creators with a business and just
Mhm.
embracing that spirit of like just put your art into the world and it resonates with who it resonates with and you're not
Yeah.
always gonna have like a bunch of likes or a bunch of like
Yeah, I had to get away from that, and some days are better than others, right?
yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like, I had to, like, that, well, it's your inner critic too, but I had to say, like, it's okay. Like, it's okay if I don't have a lot of likes, and if I have a lot of likes, I don't want my ego to get ahead of me either. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it is what it is. And hopefully I can touch a few people, or even more than a few people. You know what I mean? Because that's really the goal. It's not like, I mean, yeah, I want them to enjoy my classes or my offerings or Reiki or things like that, or, but at the end of the day, I want them to do them to do you know, like, so it's like I want them to be healthy and happy too. So like whatever that looks like for them, they don't, you know. And I guess it's like your people find you. People will find you, you know, which has been such an exciting journey for me because I feel like I'm meeting so many like-minded individuals, and that's like how we met. You know, like I jumped out of my comfort zone to do that wellness fair, and that's how you and I met. And I would have
And
never,
I'm
which
like,
is so way cool.
podcast. You're like, oh God.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. It's kind of like the teaching thing. I was like, there's no way. And then I was like, there's no way I'm doing a podcast. And here I am, which is just, you know, jumping out of my comfort zone again. Which
Yeah.
I,
Oh my
yeah.
God. So funny. I actually did a podcast recently with this woman. Her name's Victoria Vanstone, and she wrote A Thousand Wasted Sundays. It's this really hilarious book about her giving up drinking. But she was like, we were talking about how we both have public speaking on our bucket lists. Like, we want to speak, but then it's always kind of like, why did I sign up for this again? I actually hate that I'm doing this, but afterwards, so gratifying. And it's just, yeah, it's like you can surprise yourself what you're capable of. But so often when we commit to things outside of our comfort zone and the time comes, you're like, God damn it, why did I say yes to this?
I know. Why did I say yes to this? But then I'm like, it's good. When I commit 1,000%. Like that
Yeah.
is it. So when I say yes, I'm doing it.
Mm.
And that's just it. That's my personality. So I knew, I said, you know, when you ask me, I'm like, I'm saying yes, and I will do. I just don't know when I'm going to do it, but I'll do it.
And here you are, we're
Yeah,
doing
I
it.
love
Yes.
it. I love it. Thank you. I'm
And you're crushing
grateful.
it. So, okay, entrepreneurship, there's lots of mindset struggles there. We covered a few good ones. And then in terms of health, wellness, healing, growth, what do you feel like some of the most essential tools in our toolkit are, in your opinion?
So for me, it sounds so simple, and it's been something that has been ingrained in me from my dad since I was, you know, little or whatever. It's just move your body, keep moving your body. Like that's something, and it sounds so little, and I know it's kind of sometimes over, um, I don't know what the word is, but I feel like, you know, moving your body is something it's really important in health and wellness, especially in like our industry or whatever. My industry with yoga and all of that is, he would just say to me, just keep moving. And that, but then on the flip side, it would be like, okay, I never had a problem moving. I had a problem slowing down. So it was like practicing, you know, taking a breath and slowing down, because that's me. I have such a go, go, go personality that I need to kind of calm myself and live in the present moment too. So that, you know, trying to balance the two is really important. Um, but for some people, it's moving your body. Just continue to move your body. And when I say do you, it's like do what makes sense for your body. You know, and it could be yoga, it could be something else. You know, it doesn't have to be yoga. It could be a million other things. But that's something that's really important. Um, to continue to do. And I feel like the other one is, you know, the other one's kind of the same. On the flip side, it's like eating healthy, or cleaner eating, right? Those are the two things that would be in my toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for cleaner eating, it's like I've always felt like, yeah, I used to drive my mom crazy when I was little. I'd be like, "Do you know what's in that?" You know, like, yeah, I was one of those. But I felt like I always ate healthy. I really did. I stopped eating like meat when I was in high school, and I just, for no other reason than I just didn't like it. So for me, over the past couple of years, especially when I got sick with Lyme, I really changed how I ate, and basically got rid of gluten, and eliminated sugar, and got rid of coffee and stuff like that. So that was something that really was a big shift for me. I will never get rid of chocolate. So that's something that's always going to stay in my life. So I feel like, yeah, like eat clean, but also eat the chocolate, or like whatever your version of chocolate is, eat the cake, or like you have to have those things that are going to bring you joy too. And that brings me joy. So that's never going to be like out of my toolbox, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I know I'm similar to you where with what you said about go, go, go and like moving your body but also slowing down. I'm similar where I sometimes have a hard time slowing down and I'm just excited about life and all my ideas. And so I feel like that momentum carries me like far, but also integrating intentional stillness and pausing and connection to my body. That's all been something I've had to work on as well. Because it's hard to find the balance, especially as an entrepreneur, because there's always things that you can be doing. Like there's always more ideas that you have, a post you can do, so many like collaborations. It's just like the stream of ideas is never ending. And so for me, I've really had to learn to do that in an intentional way. Like, all right, we're shutting off, shutting down.
Yeah. And just like, yeah, you have to. And like, where am I putting my energy right now? And that's a big one too, making sure that you don't deplete yourself because as an entrepreneur, you're working all different hours. You know what I mean? It's not a 9 to 5. So yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yeah. And I feel like it's so important, at least like I am always wanting to be. I really believe like our energy translates in our sessions and with me with coaching and clients, I'm like I don't want to be in a frantic space talking to people. Like I know even if they're not consciously aware of it, I just know that the like power of presence, deep presence and stillness within yourself, like it is healing, even if they don't realize it. And it's the genuine alignment you have as a practitioner translates to your clients, like even without them knowing it. I really, really believe that. And so for me, it's always so important to be in alignment because I'm like, well, they might not know that like I'm scattered or like completely
Right.
like out of alignment, but
Right.
like I think that like my therapeutic potential is so much higher when I'm in alignment, even if they aren't consciously aware of it.
Totally, 100%. I agree, 100%. Especially when I'm working on like when I'm doing Reiki and stuff like that. I mean, well, with yoga too, like, but especially with Reiki, like, yeah, that's something that's really important,
Yeah.
with yeah, the energy work and stuff like that. So you have to, that's why you have to well, not have to. For me, I need to maintain a practice for myself because if I don't, I'm not going to be good. If I'm depleted and I don't maintain my own practice, I'm not going to be able to give back to other people too. And that's not fair. So
Right.
I try to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know. I remember when I was working in hospitality, there was someone I worked with who was a Reiki practitioner, but she was like drinking, binge drinking all the time. I'm like, I'm also a binge drinker, but I want you to do my energy work.
I kind of have a problem with that.
Like that feels like it
Feeling
might
disturbing
be.
right now.
I'm like, yeah, even though I'm like drunk half the time, that doesn't seem right. Um,
Fire beware.
Yeah, exactly. So it's funny. Like, and it is. It's like I can tell, just you can feel the power of sessions and stuff when you're just really um, in your own integrity and it comes across.
Yeah, it does. 1,000%. And I feel too that like teaching grounds me. Like teaching a class totally 1,000% grounds me. When I'm such a go, 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 where I'm like here, there, and everywhere. I have, like you said, a million different ideas, or I have to do this or that or this. And I feel totally, 100% grounded, which is nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. I get that when I do breath work for clients. I'm like, this feels like it's mutually beneficial.
I'm loving this too. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we're kind of in this like leads us right into our next question because I feel like stress is such a omnipresent role in many people's health. And the pace in which we live at almost feels like stress is just unavoidable part of life. And so,
Mhm.
what do you feel like for you specifically? You just said teaching grounds you, but what really helps you quiet the chatter or kind of focus on just the things you can control?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Um, and that changes daily. Like today, for me, it was taking Riley for a walk, like my chocolate lab. Like that was just like that's so grounding for me. I'm such an earth person. I like to be outdoor. I'm an outdoorsy person. So for me, it's like I need to be outside.
Hmm.
So that's like, and he needs to be outside too for so many different reasons. But I feel like so it's mutually beneficial to him and for both of us. Um, excuse me.
Take your time.
I have a tickle in my throat. Um, I would say that yoga, yes, like that's something that's so grounding to me that I talked about, and for my own personal practice and when I'm teaching, that's something that grounds my body. Meditation, and it's so funny, like meditation for me isn't this big thing. Like it's different. Like I feel like meditation can be what you want it to be. Like, you don't, some people use apps, like whether it's, the Calm app or Insight Timer or whatever it is, or people just naturally meditate on their own. Or like, I don't know, whatever you're doing during the day, you can have that mindful moment and that can be your meditation. So meditation for me is something that's kind of calming when
Hmm.
I can when I do it. Um, Reading a book, cooking, things like hanging out with friends, family, like that's grounding for me too. And that like helps me to not be so stressed out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So those
Yeah. I
things.
do think people can overcomplicate meditation, and it's just like you can make anything a mindfulness practice if you just decide
Yeah.
to. Um,
Yeah.
but it's nice to have the structure of like a formal meditation sometimes, but then there is other times where it's just about a reminder to be present, doing the dishes. You know,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
like at least for me, I'm always thinking like 10 steps ahead. And so sometimes even just like releasing that,
Me
like,
too.
I don't need to think 10 steps ahead right now. Just like forget about it and revisit that later. Like literally that feels like a meditation sometimes.
Right.
Like
Right.
permission to stop thinking about the
Right.
future.
Right? Which isn't always easy. But yeah, that and like too, I don't do it often, but like I love anything with art and painting and pottery and stuff like anything like that. Like I can totally just tap into it and that just like de-stressifies. Like it's fun.
Yeah, I just did a presentation on Saturday about nervous system regulation, and I talked about like flow state hobbies and just how we create micro moments of flow throughout, hobbies or things we kind of lose track of time and just get absorbed in. And it really kind of trains us to find those larger patterns of flow in our life and feel what it feels like within our body to be in a regulated state, which is necessary if we want to find flow. But it's funny because I was in a book club recently, and we were talking about the idea of flow, and one of the girls in it was like, I don't understand like how to get in flow. I have this like to-do list of like all these things to help me be in flow, and it's like we're looking for it in a way that's like almost counteracting it. And it was kind of funny. And we were all having this really interesting conversation about achieving flow in our lives. And I think, yeah, it does happen when you kind of start practicing those small mindful moments. And then you can extrapolate them to like a larger energy in your
Totally.
overarching energy in your life.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you.
Hmm.
How's the book club?
It was good. It's actually on this it's a psilocybin curious book club, which is really interesting because it seems like counterintuitive to sober curious, but I've actually been really trying to learn more about plant medicine and just how it can be therapeutic for like things like addiction or mental health issues and stuff. So it's like I feel like the future of alcohol recovery maybe will include plant medicine. And I want to learn more about it and stay open-minded, and curious and it's really cool too because the whole book is about, how plant medicine, like psilocybin particularly, is this kind of embracing of feminine energy, of introspection, slowing down, creativity, like so much of what we are actually missing societally in this like very unbalanced way. And
Mhm.
And so it's just really interesting too, because I feel like a lot of the reasons why I actually like used alcohol to self-medicate was like a disconnect from like my feminine archetypal energy, like creativity, like slowing down. I was very like goal oriented. I didn't know how to slow down. I was really out of touch with my intuition and like deeper meaning and purpose in my life and my spiritual connection, which I feel like is all connected to creativity. And so it's been kind of this really cool sort of exploration of like what we're missing in society, what like why plant medicine has been suppressed, like all this stuff. Kind of a tangent here I'm going on,
No,
but
I love
you get the
this though. I love it.
point.
We've turned it around. Now the interview's about you. No.
I know you're like, what book club? Let me in on this book club.
More.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's
I
really
love that
interesting.
though.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think there is like a future for the use of plant medicines and like microdosing and the treatment of like mental health conditions and stuff. So it's interesting because it kind of brings back a energy with plant medicine that I feel like, and it goes all back into, like the goddess worship and how that transitioned away from like we transitioned away from nature and goddess worship and plant
Yeah.
medicines and all these things. And it talks about how the like, the powers that be have kind of pushed substances that are more restrictive to our consciousness instead of like expansive. And so, yeah, all super interesting.
It is really interesting. I love it.
Yeah. Which, speaking of book clubs, like one thing for me with in the conversation of stress, I feel like community is
Oh
some.
my God. Yeah, community is 1,000%. Like, and that's a big one, especially like, yeah, yoga built, yeah, community 100%, 1,000%.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nervous system regulation and community. And also one other thing I feel like is that people don't talk about as much with stress is our mindset and how we can look at things like from a growth or a fixed mindset. And I feel like that really contributes to like how we experience stress when we're looking at the world with like curiosity and openness or more of like fixed opinions and
100%. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's just, and I feel like too, like every day is a different day. It depends on what's happening in somebody's life, right? But it's so much easier. I try to be open to try or try to understand that, everybody has something different going on in their lives too. So they're not me, and I get that. Um, but for the most part, like you said, you can shift your mindset so easily, or you can shift that what's happening in your world so easily if you just looked at it a different way, or came at it from a different perspective, or did something different. So it didn't, you wouldn't have to, be so stressed or be so angry or whatever it is, but then I get like there's life happens and there's stuff that like, frustrates people and whatever. So it's hard.
Mhm.
It's definitely it's hard. It's a hard shift for some people.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I try to find the balance between like regular stress management so that like when I do feel super stressed, I have tools, but also like you said, like taking inventory, like do I have
Yeah.
to have this stressor in my life or am I bringing it on myself?
Right. Right. And it's exactly, am I bringing this on myself? Is this really happening right now?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people stress about things that aren't even, it's like the future. So it's like it goes back to living in that moment. You know what I mean? This
Yeah.
may never actually happen at all. It may never come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I know sometimes, and I know that it's easier said than done. So I don't want to downgrade what somebody's feeling. Like I want to be there, like, of course, like support that person or whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's like you said, sometimes we're bringing it on ourselves, or we're surrounding ourselves with people that maybe aren't, you know, beneficial for us, for our health and our mind and our, whatever too. So there's part of that too,
Mm-hmm.
which is really
Yeah.
hard to let go of that. That's hard when you're so used to whatever it is, whoever it is, your group. That might not. Sometimes you have to say you have to shift
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really hard because then that evolves into change, and change is not always easy, but it's also necessary to evolve. So I think, kind of all goes hand in hand.
Oh yeah.
And you don't see it at the time too. So it's like, oh, if only we could always see into the future and be like, is this going to work out? Are we going to be fine? If we just did X, Y, and Z,
Yeah.
are we gonna land on our feet? And it's like, yes, you will. If you
Yeah.
believe, you have to also believe it. Like, I'm gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be okay. And if it's not okay right now, it'll eventually get there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that shift.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
again, it's easier said than, it's easier said than done because there are like major things that happen that it's like and I get that too.
Yeah, the leaps of faith without any evidence that it's gonna improve your life, particularly when they are, removing you from your comfort zone is so hard. I definitely
Mhm.
experienced that with like drinking and then even just addressing like people pleasing or, different things or um who I spend my time with is like am I like these things are actually causing me stress in my life and perpetuating cycles of dysfunction, but I'm actively choosing them all, Like people pleasing, it's like immediate gratification, but you self-abandon and then you're worried, like, why did I say yes to that? Why did I tell that person this? Like it feels easier, but it's actually causing more stress in
Yeah.
the long run. And
Yeah,
so
it's not healthy for me or you or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And it's so all those like little ways in which it's like we feel like our lives are really stressful, which there is the inevitable stressors, like you're saying, but then we also have lots of like opportunity to reflect and be like, wait a second here, though. I bet there's a couple of these I can take off my plate.
I
So,
think so. I think so. I'm
yeah.
with
Tell me more about what you see like for the future of Cherry on Top.
That's a that's a hard question because it's just starting.
Like,
I've
what was your dream vision for your business?
so so cherry on top for me is like, it's funny, that was always my saying, my go-to saying, like during my social media posts was I'd have like a cherry on top moment. So it would be like I'd write my post before I got into my business and it would be like, oh, blah, 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 this, and this, I did this, and this was my cherry on top. Cherry on top was whatever it was. Like it could have been something little, it could have been something big, but it was like that moment, that just one extra special thing in your day, the cherry on top. So when I started to get serious about my business, it was like thinking about, and that's another thing, like, what's your business name going to be and all of that. And then I was like, cherry on top, of course. Like, why wouldn't it be? And for me, because it's such a small business and I like that small boutique feeling, I don't feel like that needs to change. I don't want it to change. And it's still evolving and it will continue to evolve. But for me, initially it was making yoga and Reiki accessible for and I say everybody because I feel like everybody, whether you are younger or older or whatever. I just feel like everybody can do yoga. Just making it more accessible for people because I know it can be scary for people.
Mhm.
I've had so many conversations with people over the years and even more recently just about like, hey, I'm really intimidated about walking into a class for the first time. And I'm like, I get that. I was that person at one point. So my business would be like, what I want my business to continue to do is evolve and make it accessible for everybody, whether it's yoga, whether it's collaborations, fun workshops, um, Reiki healing, um, and just some unique, interesting things with collaborations. Not necessarily doesn't have to be yoga, but just some fun things that will allow other individuals to network with other people too and just feel like they're not alone, because that's something that's really important, because you can, when you're on your self-care journey or your healing journey or whatever that looks like for you, sometimes it can be lonely and you just so yeah, but I feel like my business is going to continue to evolve. What that looks like in the future, I'm not sure, but I know it's going to continue to be a health and wellness business, and it's going to be that boutique vibe, and I'm going to continue to network with some amazing humans, which is so fun for me. Yeah,
I find it's really exciting to like have the intention and then just be open to all possibility. And it's just sometimes the most magical opportunities flow from that because things you would never think of when you're open and they just
totally,
like happen. And it's
totally.
I love the cherry on top too because it just I don't know, I feel like that's kind of what happens when you actually decide to prioritize yourself. And there's this like element of after you get through a lot of the bullshit and the hard stuff, it kind of like really do some of the work. I don't know, it's like life just becomes so much more romanticized in the day to day. And I feel like you miss all the little cherries on top
I
when
do.
you're kind of just going through life and not really paying attention. And I feel like for me, going on my own healing journey of like sobriety and wellness, I feel like I can see all the cherries on top now throughout my day and like notice them more and just be like, wow, like all these little things, like it's so nice. You just get to romanticize your life in a way that is really special. And that's what it reminds me of, that name. I love it.
I love that. Thank you. Although I see cherries everywhere now, which
Yeah,
is right. It's like, what is going on?
it's
Which
your
isn't a bad
mom.
thing, right? I love it. I
Like, good
love it.
job. Keep
I
going.
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think like, I feel like too, and I don't know what this looks like, but I've been working a lot with children too, which is so much fun, and I love to continue to do that, whether it's like athletes or like having them find because there's so much stress right now for these young um, kids, children, anxiety and all of that. So like how continuing to support them, but also the wisdom of my older clientele kind of helping the younger clientele too. And I don't know how that looks and vice versa. Like I feel like they can learn from each other
Hmm.
um, during this journey. So might be doing some fun stuff with that too, which would be cool. Yeah.
Yes, that's the beauty of group work. There's so
Yeah.
much wisdom everyone gets to share with each other. It's
Yeah.
really cool to see that happen. Sometimes at the sober curious circles, I'm just like, I just like sit here and let it all unfold.
Right.
I barely
Right.
have to do anything, just set it
Right.
up.
I
Um,
love
Yeah, everyone has so much wisdom to share, and I think it's so fun to be able to provide spaces to inspire people to realize like you actually do have something really powerful to share. Because I think a lot of people, have insights along their path to growth and personal development and they have that same voice like we were explaining like well who am I to share or whatever and it's like yeah but no one has the same perspective that you have on it and it could land just perfectly for the right person to hear because it's coming from you specifically.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. Yeah. And I mean, our industry is so, I feel like there's so much more to offer too, which is so cool.
Mhm.
Yes, and some people will say it's heavily saturated, but I feel like I don't look at it that way. I look at it like the more the merrier, I think. Like I just think it's fun. So
Yeah,
it doesn't need to be that way.
I
Um,
know. And I think people could say that about anything,
you
it's
could,
like
you could.
yeah, I guess, but I remember people saying that to me, like when I went to get my master's in nutrition, or I was like, oh, I wonder. It's just funny when people want to say stuff like that. I'm like, I have a feeling you might not be that happy at your job or something, when it's
I
like,
never
oh,
thought
well,
that way.
yeah, like the naysaying is like, well, I think every field is saturated, but I do feel like there is enough for everyone, and collaborating is so beautiful. And it is like, because even I felt that way at points being doing like sober curiosity and it's funny because I even had a business coach at one point she's like I've literally never heard of anybody else with this niche and but then looking around, I'm like, here's a sober coach. But I think about it and I'm like, yeah, but every energy of all these coaches is so different and like different
Yeah,
from each other, different from me. And like, if I was looking for somebody, I wouldn't just pick someone because they're a sober coach. I would pick someone because be like, oh, I vibe with this person.
yeah, 100%.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is too. Like that's how it is in, with yoga or whatever too, or like the industry that I'm in. It's you go to the teacher. I mean, sometimes it's the class and it's the time, but other times it's the teacher too. So and I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me if you could go back. I love this question. And tell your old self anything, what would you tell her?
Oh my gosh.
So maybe your old corporate America self.
I mean, my old self would be like, you're beautiful. You have this. Don't worry. Um, yeah, like that's my younger self. I think it would be like, like you've got this. Don't worry. It would be, I think it would be travel more, travel light. I think both emotionally and physically.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a big one for me too. Like, don't carry your stuff with you. It's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be okay. And I say like travel lightly emotionally and physically because yeah, and physically, like you don't need to pack a million bags where you're going, but travel often, travel light. And you've got this. I think that's the biggest one. You're gonna be okay.
Oh, that's so good. Travel often and travel light, emotionally and physically. That's so good.
I like that one.
The emotional understanding of that is pretty cool. Travel often, like explore your emotions often, and travel light, like don't carry a bunch of emotional baggage you don't need.
Yeah, your head trash. Don't carry it.
Head trash. I like that.
I know. You
What about
can use it.
yeah, I know
You
next
can
year,
use
be
it.
like, everyone, head trash. Let's get it out of here. You're
I
like, I
love
trademark this right
I
now.
love it. Yeah, exactly. Like I've trademarked it. You can use
Uh,
it though.
yeah, so tell me what your number one tip would be to pass along to any women listening about um if they're thinking about embarking on an entrepreneurial journey of their own, what would you tell them?
Yeah, so I think I mean, it's interesting because it's still new for me. So I feel like it's something that I need to tell myself too, is be you. I think that's the biggest one is just be you. Be you, be yourself. Um, and embrace the chaos because and there's a lot of it, but it doesn't have to be bad. So embrace the chaos and be you. I think that would be the two less complicated things to say, but kind of powerful things to say.
Hmm. Sometimes
Yeah.
simple is best. Yes,
Yeah.
embrace the chaos, be you. I think those are great words of wisdom.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's hard. It you get into like comparison mode sometimes, and I think the antidote to that is be like, nope, just be myself.
Yeah.
That's like the best currency that I have is like authenticity, and that's what sets you apart the most is, just trying to be yourself.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to like how we started. It was just like, yeah, like why me, but why not you? So nobody's you. And you know what I mean? So yeah, be your authentic self.
Mhm.
Um, And I always say, like, I say this, and this is my other catchphrase that I've trademarked. Practice the pause. I always say that too, practice the pause, because that's something that it sticks with the students and it sticks with people so much. But like, I think that's a big one too, rather than react right away. So that's my kind of go-to thing is if I'm really upset about something, I try not always successful at this, but a lot of times I am, is just especially when you're going through your whatever, your entrepreneurship, you're running your own business or whatever. And even if you're not running your own business, but practicing the pause when stuff happens, when like you said, like shit hits the fan, something upsets you, practice your pause. And then if you can, sleep on it. And then the next day, if you still feel so whatever, empowered or frustrated or whatever it is, then maybe you're going to come at it with a clearer mind, and then it won't be as bad, whenever you're going to have to deal with that emotion,
Mhm.
or whoever you have to deal with at that point, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, that's a big one. And especially like in just like our world, like there's things that you might do differently if you just paused.
Hmm. Yeah, we're not really encouraged to do it either. And so I feel like there's everything would be done differently if you took a moment to think about it. And
Yeah,
at the very least, even if you would approach it the same, it's with a different energy after a pause.
1,000%. I mean, especially like in your business world, it's like aggressively writing whatever an email, and then it's like, all right, I'm going to pause and then sleep on this, and
Yeah.
maybe I'm going to write that, but it's not going to be as whatever,
It
whatever.
might say the same thing, but it's not infused with
Right,
hatred.
right.
They won't
Like,
feel the animosity coming through the
right,
screen.
right. There's a lot of hearts in the post now.
Yeah, exactly. Add a couple exclamation points, a few emojis, soften the blow. Um,
Right.
that's awesome. So, well, thank you so much for sharing. The last thing I wanted to ask is if you don't mind, just letting everyone know where they can find you, website, Instagram, all that stuff.
Oh, okay. I love that. So my website is cherryontopyoga.com.
Hmm.
And that's where they can find all my offerings, whether it's yoga one-on-one, or booking a one-on-one session or a double session or Reiki or anything like that. They can book it through Calendly on site, and they can find out a little bit more about my services on my website. They can also find Cherry on Top on Instagram, and then I have my cherry on top on Facebook too. So both Instagram, Facebook, and my website. So
Nice.
that's, yeah. And my Facebook does have, I think, testimonials too, my business page. So yeah, definitely like my business page. Come see me, send me a message. I don't know, reach out to me. I'd love to hear I want to hear from people. So yeah, I want to, reach out and ask me questions or anything like that. If you have any questions about the health and wellness arena, how it comes to like with yoga, Reiki, or anything like that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Beautiful. Yeah, and stay tuned for a future
Workshop.
conversation in the
Oh
spring.
my gosh. I'm so excited about that. And the spring's going to be amazing because we're going to do this in a yurt. So like, I'm so excited. I'm like so excited that I finally actually got to um, do a workshop, have a like be a part of your workshop in the yurt. That was amazing.
The
Amazing.
vision boarding, that was
The
fun.
vision boarding was amazing. And
I still have mine. It's over here. I
I
have
was
kept
so
it in the
like,
yurt.
I know I still have, I love mine. And like, I feel like, yeah, if you think that yurt is cold, it is definitely not cold. I thought I was packing for an overnight like stay or something with all my blankets and stuff and whatever. My husband's like, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going to the yurt. But it was so funny. And then
God,
I
so
come in and
many.
I was like, yeah, because it was so cold,
It
right?
was cold
Outside, it
that
was
day.
cold. And then
Yeah.
I was like, what is this gonna look like? All right, I had like my sweater and my turtleneck and like a blanket and another blanket. And I'm like, all right, I'm going. And
Yeah.
um, and it was so cozy and so toasty and so much fun. Although there was like so many comfy blankets too. So I didn't even need to bring one. But I loved the experience. I loved meeting all those people. So many new like friendly faces. So that was
Yeah.
fun. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to doing a
Really
workshop with
cool.
you.
I know. We'll have to do like half yoga. We'll have to get creative and
We'll
brains.
We will. We will practice our pause, get creative. I
Yeah.
don't know. I am. I'm really looking forward to it though. I'm so grateful for this. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you everyone for listening. Don't
Yeah.
forget to like, share, and subscribe if this episode resonated with you. And go find Kat at Cherry on Top Yoga and Wellness, Instagram, Facebook, website. And thanks for
All
being
all
here.
the media things, right? Yeah.
Alrighty, bye everyone.
All right.